Okay, so let's dive into a figure almost everyone recognizes, certainly in East Asia, Guanyin Bodhisattva, the image of ultimate compassion.
Absolutely. Serene, gentle, the one people turn to when they're suffering.
But where does that specific image within Chinese mythology itself actually originate? If you dig into, say, the Investiture of the Gods, the Fengshen Yanyi.
Right. That's where things get really interesting. Because the Guanyin, we know, has this incredibly specific predecessor in that text.
Exactly, a character named Cihang Daoren. And it's not just a simple precursor. The source suggests she was almost deliberately engineered within that Daoist epic to become this Buddhist icon.
That's the core of what we want to unpack today.
Yeah.
Cihang Daoren isn't just an early draft. She's more like a bridge character. A Taoist-aligned figure whose destiny, written right into the plot, is a transition into this major Buddhist bodhisattva.
So our mission here is really to trace that exact path. How does this Taoist figure transform? It's almost a case study in how these huge belief systems, Taoism and Buddhism, blend together in popular stories.
And the fascinating part, like you said, is how deliberate it seems in Fengshen Yanyi. The authors didn't just let it happen. They kind of built Cihang specifically for this transition.
Okay, let's start at the beginning then. Her original identity. If she's involved in this massive war on the side of the main Taoist faction, the Chan teaching, where does she actually fit in this spiritual hierarchy described in the book?
Well, she does fight with the Chan teaching, the good guys supporting the Zhou dynasty against the Chang. But here's the twist. Cihang Daoren herself isn't originally from that school. She's a disciple of the Western teaching.
The Western teaching? And in Fengshen Yanyi, that's explicitly set up as the precursor to Buddhism, right?
Exactly right. The text uses it as a sort of coded placeholder for Buddhism. So her roots are already pointing westward, towards that different spiritual path, even while she's allied with the Taoists in the war.
And who are her peers or mentors within that Western teaching, does it tell us?
It does. And it places her very high up. She's listed as a fellow disciple alongside the two great sages who lead the Western teaching, Cihang Daoren and Guanyin Daoren.
Wow, okay. So she's associated with the very top figures of this proto-Buddhist lineage. That gives her serious clout.
Immense clout. And it clearly marks her as separate from the standard lineage of the Chan teaching immortals like Nezha or Yang Jian. She's an outsider, in a way, spiritually speaking.
And what about her personality? Was she this fierce warrior like some of her Taoist allies? Or was that compassionate nature already there?
Oh, it was absolutely already there. The text stressed that while she possessed powerful magic, her fundamental nature was defined by extreme compassion and softness. Sibiru is the term often used.
Sibiru, compassion and softness.
Precisely. And that inherent nature is apparently why she was given the name Cihang.
Cihang, meaning?
It translates roughly to compassionate vessel or compassionate raft, like a vessel to carry beings across the sea of suffering.
So her name is literally foreshadowing her entire future role. It's not subtle.
Not at all. It's like a big signpost in the narrative. It tells you her transformation into Guanyin isn't some random plot twist. It's the fulfillment of the identity she already embodies. She's essentially written into the story to eventually become this figure of ultimate compassion.
Okay, that makes sense. Which leads us to her role in the actual war. Why would the leaders of this Western teaching, Zunti and Jian, send their disciples, especially one defined by compassion, into this brutal Taoist conflict?
Well, the rationale given in the text is that the investiture of the gods, this whole process of assigning celestial positions after the war, was a cosmic event of huge importance. It required input, or at least assistance, from all major spiritual factions.
Including the Western teaching.
Including the Western teaching. So two sages deployed their disciples, Cihang among them, to Middle-earth, essentially to lend their spiritual weight to Jiangxia and the Zhou cause, ensuring the investiture process went according to the grander cosmic plan.
So Cihang joins the Chan teaching camp, helping Jiangxia. She's fighting alongside these really famous, really powerful figures, Yang Jian, Nezha.
That's right. She's part of that core team.
Yeah.
But, and this is crucial, her methods on the battlefield are completely different. This is where you really see the foreshadowing.
Okay, tell me about that. Because Fengshen Yanyi is famous for its descriptions of, incredibly destructive battles, magical weapons, people getting obliterated.
Right. Fire wheels, golden bricks, spears.
Yeah.
It's intense. But Cihang Daoren stands out. While her allies are focused on defeating enemies through force, she becomes known for using her compassionate heart, her Sibei Jishin.
Using compassion? How? In a battle?
To subdue enemies, yes.
Yeah.
But also to persuade them, And most importantly, to offer them deliverance, the term used is dua.
Wait. So she wasn't just like incapacitating Shang generals, she was spiritually converting them or saving their souls.
Essentially, yes. It's a kind of spiritual warfare. Instead of just destroying them, she often provides a path out of the conflict for them. She persuades them to switch sides, or helps guide their defeated spirits towards a better reincarnation or a higher plane. It's about salvation, not just victory.
That's radically different from most of the other fighters.
Fundamentally different, and it perfectly sets up her later identity as the Bodhisattva who saves beings from suffering. The audience sees her already doing this deliverance work during the war.
And you see this role get picked up and expanded later too, right? Even outside the main Fengshen story.
Absolutely. The model was so powerful. Later folklore, building on this, readily gives her famous disciples like the Good Wealth Boy, Shankai Tongzi, and the Dragon Girl, long new figures who are almost always shown with Guanyin.
Right. The standard attendant.
Exactly. So the core function remains consistent across stories. She's the one who saves, guides, and transforms those who are lost or suffering.
Okay, so that sets the stage perfectly for what happens after the war. The fighting stops, the Zhou dynasty wins, the gods get their assignments. What happens next, spiritually?
This is where the big spiritual deal happens. A formal arrangement is made.
Between who?
Between the leader of the Chan teaching, the Taoist master Yuanqi Tianzun, and the two leaders of the Western teaching, Jin and Zunti. It's presented almost like a post-conflict settlement over spiritual resources and personnel.
A kind of divine negotiation. So what was agreed?
The outcome was essentially a planned migration. A significant number of disciples from the Chan teaching, along with some other unaffiliated immortals who had helped the Zhou cause, were deliberately sent west.
Sent west to join the Western teaching.
Precisely. To formally become part of that lineage, which, as we established, is the story's stand-in for Buddhism. Their new roles would be as Buddhist bodhisattvas.
And Cihang Daoren, already being from the Western teaching, she must have been central to this.
She was the prime example. Her journey is completed here. She's formally sealed or canonized with the specific title Qiang Pudu.
Qiang Pudu, what does the Pudu add?
Pudu means universal deliverance or salvation. So, compassionate raft for universal deliverance. It's an explicit statement of her mission.
And because, as we discussed, her compassionate nature, Sibei-ru, was already so well established.
Exactly. It already perfectly matched the Buddhist ideal of Juku Jinan, saving from suffering and hardship.
So for the people hearing or reading this, it wasn't like some foreign deity was being forced on them. It felt like a natural progression for a character they already knew and associated with compassion.
Precisely. The transition to recognizing her as Guanyin Bodhisattva felt seamless. The authors of Fengshen basically provided this incredibly useful mythological roadmap. They gave a popular native origin story within a beloved epic for what would become one of China's most important adopted deities. It's brilliant narrative work, really.
It really is. A fantastic example of how stories can shape and reflect cultural and religious integration. Okay, let's move to the legacy then. How quickly did people start equating Cihang Daoren directly with Guanyin Bodhisattva? Did the Cihang name just fade away?
In popular belief, the connection seems to have been made very quickly. Shang was pretty rapidly and directly seen as being Guanyin. By the time you get to, say, the Eastern Jin dynasty, when Guanyin worship really starts to take off in China, Shang's original name, Cihang Daoren, starts to become less common in everyday use.
But the title stuck around.
The title did. Qiang Pudu was just too perfect a description of Guanyin's role. So even as the name Chang faded a bit, that title, Compassionate Raft for Universal Deliverance, was kept and used specifically to talk about Guanyin's immense compassion and her mission.
So the job description outlasted the original name, in a way.
You could say that, yeah. The core concept was preserved.
And this whole process also solidified the basis for Guanyin's most famous characteristic, her vow, right?
Yes. The legendary vow to save all sentient beings, Dujin Zongsheng. That grand commitment really defines Guanyin's mythology. It's the reason she's said to constantly transform herself, appearing in, I think it's 33 different forms.
Right, to meet people where they are.
Exactly, to provide aid tailored to their specific needs and suffering. The vow explains her constant, active presence in the world.
So if we step back and look at the whole story of Cihang Daoren, it's clearly more than just one character's journey. It's making a bigger statement. What are the key symbolic takeaways here?
I think there are three main ones to pull out. First, she strongly represents feminine compassion. In the Fengshen world, which is often very focused on male power, conflict, violence, Shang offers this alternative strength, a gentle, soft power focused on pity and universal salvation. She's a crucial counterpoint.
Okay, feminine compassion. What's the second?
Second, she's undeniable proof of cultural synthesis. Within this Taoist epic, she acts as the bridge. She symbolizes the successful blending of the native Taoist framework with the incoming Buddhist system. The story basically says, look, these traditions can coexist, they can influence each other, they can even share figures.
Makes sense. And the third?
And third, she becomes this enduring icon precisely because her narrative worked so well. It gave Guanyin, originally a figure from outside China, this deep domestic root system within Chinese folklore. Cihang's story made Guanyin feel authentically Chinese, not like a foreign import.
It allowed her to be fully embraced and become one of the most popular figures in the entire cultural sphere.
Absolutely. Her story paved the way.
It's really quite something. We've traced this journey from Cihang Daoren, the disciple of the Western teaching, fighting in a Taoist war, using compassion as her weapon, to her formal recognition as Shangpudu, and ultimately her complete identification with Guanyin, the Bodhisattva of Compassion.
The writers of Fengshen Yanyi weren't just chronicling a mythical war. They were, in a way, writing a theological explanation for a massive cultural shift. They were giving Guanyin a Chinese pedigree.
Which brings us to a final thought for you, the listener, to maybe mull over. Think about how often these grand mythological stories, even ones filled with conflict, like Investiture of the Gods, end up serving not just to define boundaries, but actually to build bridges between cultures or beliefs.
Right. The identity of gods and heroes is rarely static. It shifts, it adapts, it merges, responding to what people need and believe over time.
Cihang Daoren's story is such a powerful example of that. It shows that even the most seemingly fixed images, like Guanyin's compassion, can have this incredibly fluid, fascinating history rooted in the way narratives evolve and cultures connect.